And welcome to Indie Social. This is the podcast where I, Dylan Yeager,
and Michael Huntington
interview independent filmmakers. Our guests come to the show to share with you, the audience, how they, started in their filmmaking career, and maybe we'll get to learn about them on a deeper and more personal level. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode of Indie Social.
Welcome to the show, Indie Social. I know you'll love our guest today, 'cause what we've got for sure will amaze. So take this time and put your stress aside and come with us. Don't be shy, just take a seat and enjoy the ride. Oh, we are Indie Social, yeah.
Today, we have an amazing duo here with us. They opened the doors of Media Adventures because they realized that their stories weren't the only stories worth telling. Everyone has a story that bears repeating. They helped bring to life the films Smoking Gun, Party to Murder, A Few Minutes More, Lunchtime, My Friend Max, and Morris. They are not only owners of Media Adventures, but also executive producers, writers, directors, cinematographers, and so many more. I can't even finish the list, so I'll let them do that for us. Ladies and gentlemen, Kevin and Debbie, is it Brubaker or Brubaker?
Brubaker.
Brubaker.
So, when you guys first started dating, did you guys talk about film a lot? Was that sort of like a subject that you guys wanted to be filmmers, or did this just kind of like stumble upon you?
I was working. The only reason I was at Village and Pancake House is I was in between studios because I went to school for photography. So I was working in between portrait studios at the time, and I just took a waitress job while I was waiting for the next one to start. Well, him and his dad always talked about how much they love film. His dad loved film, but his dad has been gone since he's been 15. So, and that was just something that Kevin always said, wouldn't it be cool to do it? And one day I said, let's just do it.
Like, why not?
I don't want to go the rest of our life thinking, what if? Let's just do it. So that's when we did our first film, Smoking Gun.
And Michael Helgens was telling us that was a feature film. You guys jumped into doing a feature, right?
Well, if you're gonna do it right off the bat. You know, just jump in both feet. You know.
And what year was that?
That was
2012, wasn't it? Or 2011?
Yeah, or it could have even been like 2009. I mean, it was
4 months of filming.
Well, it was
the whole summer.
Because we moved into the house in 2008.
Yes.
And so, then your grandma died stuff, so we had the extra money. So I think it was in 2009 we started. It took 4 months to film it and 3 months to edit it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you guys did have like the whole, like, did you guys use YouTube as a resource to figure out like what to do? Or did you guys how did you guys like learn the process of making a film? Did you just set up a camera and say action, or did you guys know how to properly state stuff?
Kevin and his friend did this kind of a pirate movie you were doing through editing.
Yeah, we took some stuff with my niece and nephews, kind of a fun little story, and then we acquired some other stuff from YouTube and made a cute little pirate movie to kind of get a feel for what the editing process was like, what that had to do. Of course, at that time you started being able to have digital processing for editing. You didn't have to have the old tapes. And
so with editing, did you use like Adobe Premiere, or like what did you guys?
No, I used a Sony. They had a Platinum 13, I think it was, or Platinum 11 or something like that, where it was a simpler version of Sony Vegas.
Oh, okay.
So that was the first software I used. Kind of a dumbed down version of it. Didn't have all the capabilities, but it was still a fun software to work with. And we discovered some really interesting things in the process, learned a lot from that aspect of storytelling from editing point of view. I think, did we use the camcorder on that pirate movie? Or? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
purchased the camcorders for Smoking Gun. Right. I don't even remember what we used for that.
Yeah, we might have used your old Nikon. So I don't know. We used a camera to film it, this little pirate thing I did with the kids, and then that's when we tied the thing together and did the storytelling through editing with that software. And we had acquired the software so we could do that purpose. And then we thought, well, that taught us a lot. So let's jump into the smoking gun thing. And we were going to do a small, in fact, I think the initial script was like nine pages.
Yes, it was very small, and you just kept adding to it.
Yeah, and I kept going back and doing
And
rewrite.
before you knew it, it was like 120 pages. and
Well,
you're like,
almost.
Oh, okay.
It got to like 90 some, and we finally edited it down. I think the final script was like 72 pages.
oh, okay.
But even with that, it still ended up being an hour and 43 minutes long. So it was not, even with 72 pages, you can get a lot with the B-roll and some extra
Right.
stuff.
So
It took a lot of time.
since you didn't use like YouTube as a source to kind of learn how to go about filmmaking, was just your passion alone? Like when you watched movies growing up, you just kind of figured it out?
Yeah, I would say that. Well, I don't know. If you ever watched Smoking Gun, you might think you should have used YouTube to figure it out. But I think there was an innate understanding of script and
Because you
the
guys
process.
are so damn good. And just
thank
hearing
you.
the story just like blows my mind. I'm like, 'cause
What?
you guys are so professional and you guys do an amazing job with everything you do. Like,
Well, thank
I
you.
would
It's
have
very kind of you.
assumed you guys like went to school. I've known
Film
you guys
school or
for
something,
years. But I mean, that's why I love having you on this podcast tonight, because I'm going to learn a lot more about you, because you guys drove me around when we're filming and I always ask you questions, but it's just never enough time.
Yeah.
You're stuck in this room for 40 minutes with me.
So, like for me, how I kind of learned filmmaking is like every time I would get a DVD or something like that, the first thing before even watching the film, I'd always go to behind the scenes and just kind of see the process of how they made the film. So like when I was like learning films and stuff, just DVD behind the scenes stuff was like my learning lesson at first. So I was curious, did you guys like watch behind the scenes stuff or?
Well, occasionally we would watch some stuff, but I think when we did Smoking Gun and got the script, I knew building a team was important, and so we brought in some people to help us to direct and to do scripting and stuff like that. So it was a learning experience on who you bring in, why you bring in, what you bring in, what you should do, what you should do. We learned a lot just from doing a big film. I mean, I think sometimes it's nice to do the short ones because you can get something done and out. But I mean, if you want a crash course in what your stamina and what you can accomplish on your own and with what money and stuff you have to do it with, nothing can do it like an epic film can. I mean,
That's true.
You know, I mean, because you have to put all the pieces together to make it come out to something somewhat of a flow to make some sense out of it, the whole thing.
And then by the end of that 4 months, I'm sure you guys were well versed on how everything was going to go on from the future there, right?
Yeah, it was like ending. We were
Right.
like, I ain't doing this again.
Definitely.
Yeah, we were pretty tired. I mean, I was not even going to help out at all. This was Kevin's thing. And
Kevin's
so,
child.
Yeah, and so he had everything planned out. I just planned out like when the people are supposed to have food, the breaks and everything. I planned out when the actors were coming in, stuff like that. And then I left because I had to go to work that day. I came back and the actors didn't have lunch, and we were well past lunch, and they hadn't taken any breaks. They hadn't even started. They only did one scene, and so I jumped in, and that's when I took over on camera.
Started cracking the whip on them.
Yeah, I'm like, we got to get this thing going, because the actors were really having a hard time because.
Well, I think that's when you kind of jumped in on detailing and getting things organized. I mean, that's probably the biggest thing. If you don't have, because one of the biggest mistakes we made going into that is we didn't have a solid pre-production.
Oh, we had no pre-production.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, without the pre-production, we knew what we wanted to do.
Yeah.
And a lot of it, unfortunately, was up here in my head.
Yeah.
But we didn't have it, like, really ironed out, all the call sheets and the whole 9 yards.
And that's how I felt when I made my first short film. Is like I never understood how important pre-production is to have a successful day in filming. And
Yes.
like now I always try to do the most pre-production you can. And I definitely realize now how important it is.
It is huge.
Yes.
It is, yeah.
is
If not, it's detrimental to your project. So
Right.
it is so great to have a group of people, and you meet people along the way. And I know that you guys ended up meeting Michael Bergen, who's kind of been like a huge
Yes.
resource for you guys.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, he's a really smart guy, makes some great films, and it's
Yeah.
been a great connection to be able to see how he does things and really learn from his prospects. Another guy that we got to meet early on in our film production career was Scott Strassel.
Scott is amazing.
He's an amazing filmmaker too, and I think that's the neat thing about what we learned is not only did we learn a lot by doing like Smoking Gun, but we learned how to connect and communicate with other people that knew a lot and learn from them.
Mm-hmm. And don't be afraid to ask questions and stuff like
Yes.
that.
Absolutely.
Because as soon as we were on our very first shoot outside of Smoking Gun, yeah, we were asking the sound guy, what kind of equipment do you have? We were asking lighting, what are you using? And then we would write it down,
Yeah,
go
where did you get
research
it
it.
and all that stuff,
Yeah,
yeah.
we researched it, and then we started buying it and then practicing with it. And yeah.
Have you had any projects that you've done where you both like realize like this is us, like we are filmmakers? Like, did you have any big like eye-opening films that like really just like triggered that in you? Like, this is what I was born to do. We're finally gonna make it. This is like the big thing.
Yes and no. I mean, I think when we did Fortunate Misfortune, that felt. I mean, we had a lot of mistakes on that one too, but that one felt very cohesive and smooth. We really went in knowing who we wanted, how we were going to put it together, and just the three of us, Michael and Deb and I, we really kind of had that structure out. We had Michael Bergen in it. We found a lady from Des Moines who came in right after work, 2 hours from Des Moines in. She had to come in and do her scene with that on the fly, and then which she did a fantastic job on.
So how did you guys come across this cast? Like, since you were just first-time filmmakers, did you guys have... Facebook wasn't really a resource as much as it is now. Mm-hmm. Did you guys put, like, casting calls on Craigslist, or how did you find the cast for Smoking Gun?
No, actually, Michael Bergen, we just loved to have him because of the character. We knew...
Michael Bergen wasn't around in Smoking Gun. You
No, he
went
wasn't
to
Smoking
Kirkwood
Gun.
Community College, and you talked to the gentleman that runs the theater at Kirkwood Community College, and you got all of those really good actors from.
Well, it's from the
Kirkwood.
theater people, yeah, for Smoking Gun, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's where a lot of it. In fact, we actually met with them. What actually happened on that when I talked to Rick Anderson, who's the theatrical director at Kirkwood, and I called him on the phone and I told him who I was and what I was doing, and he said, "Well, I've got some kids that have acted in our theater, and I'll have them get in touch with you." And so they contacted me, and I said, "Well, let's meet over at the Hardee's by Kirkwood here, and we'll sit down and talk." And I let them read the script, and they were like, "I'm on this. This is incredible. I got to do this." And I said, "Great. Let's get some stuff going." And we got about 15, I think, or something like 15 or more, 15 or 20 of the theater people. And then I acted in that one, and my partner acted in that one. And then I think that was
Yeah, they were all.
all the rest were the Kirkwood people. Yeah.
So what about the Fortunate Misfortune? How'd you come across the actress and Michael Bergen in that?
Well, in that one, Michael Bergen we had kind of worked with before with some of his other projects that he'd had. And so we really liked his ability and some of the stuff he's done to act, and we thought this was really going to be a strong character, and we wanted his masculine strength on the screen. It definitely looked like it would fit this role perfectly. But the girl, we have been I think at this time we were part of the Iowa Motion Picture Association. And one of the gentlemen on the IMPA, Michael Banks, had a list of his friends on his Facebook page, and when I went to it, I had noticed this lady that was there. That was Sarah Jolie Harriet. And I contacted Michael and said, it looks like she's an actress. Have you done much with her? And he goes, "Oh, yeah, she's incredible. She's a really incredible actress. I'd recommend her." So I went ahead and just did an instant message to her saying, "Hey, I'm Kevin Brubaker with Media Adventures here in Cedar Rapids. We're putting together this film. I think you'd fit the role perfectly. I know Michael Banks, and he suggested I contacted you for the role." And she said, "Yeah, I'd love it." I said, "Great. Get on a red dress, look good, come back and see me here this particular day, this particular time, and we're going to run this film." And so I sent her, I think through instant messages or something like that, I sent her the script. And so she came out that night right after work, dressed to the nines, and I can't remember what she did. I think it was some retail shop or something. And so I'm thinking, they're probably thinking to themselves, "Are you going to a wedding or what are you doing after this?" But she drove from Des Moines all the way out to this place. She parked at the museum down here for Czech Museum. And so she came over. We did this thing around this light pole for Fortune Misfortune with Michael Bergen. turned out wonderful. Wish we'd had better lighting for it, but it still turned out wonderful. And then she had to stay at our place because they closed the garage at the museum and her car was locked in it.
Oh no.
Yeah, so we were filming the next day another film called Lunchtime, which is a comedy, and so she ended up staying and kind of helping us out with that production, and then she went back to Des Moines. So it was kind of a interesting combination there.
So I was kind of wondering, since you guys are co-collaborators on your projects that you guys do, what is your process of like coming up with the writing? Who takes care of the writing, or is it a mutual thing?
A lot of times Michael will do the writing. He's an English major from Cornell, so
Okay.
the guy knows how to write.
Yeah, no, definitely.
But every once in a while I'll write something, and then when I write something and he'll write something, we'll sit down and we'll read it over. A lot of times we read it as the characters, so we each take characters and we read it back and forth to say, does that dialogue sound right? Does that sound good? Is it bad? What changes need to be done? And we kind of iron it all out that way. And then Debbie comes in and says, "Well, this all sucks." She's really good at critiquing and not letting us get away with pulling punches. Making it sound right.
And I mean, that definitely helps. My girlfriend, Brittany Benedict, is the same way, where like I'll write something or I'll have something that someone wrote for me and she'll come in and like fix every error that I didn't even see. So it really helps to have someone there to be blunt with you and tell you why it's not going to work.
Yeah.
It's definitely a good
I
resource.
agree,
Yeah, definitely.
So you brought up the Iowa Motion Picture Association. You guys both play a big part in that. You want to kind of let us know what that's all about?
Well, it's an organization. It's a nonprofit that really helps to put on workshops to help educate filmmakers to become better. Also, they are an award operation to where once a year they actually have what we would like to refer to as like an Iowa Oscars or an award show, honoring a lot of the films that Iowans make about Iowa or in Iowa or some Iowa connection. And we get together in different locations in Iowa, and it's just a wonderful party event that people get to be entertained, awarded, and get to share their work with a wonderful audience that maybe never has seen a good independent film before. And so we pick the best of the best, and we give them the chance to feel good on stage, I guess. It's a great opportunity to really honor the hard work that a lot of filmmakers are doing in the state of Iowa.
I always look forward to the IMPA. That's by far, I know it's not a festival, but in the festival season, here in Iowa, that's always like my number one. I make sure, I attend with a project or not.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I've only been a part of it twice, but even if nothing of mine went into it, I'd be there for sure.
Yeah, well, and you ended up being the best Iowa actor in the state of Iowa a few years ago from Morris. So
yeah, so I wanted to talk about Morris as well. How did you guys get involved in that? Did you guys already have media ventures at the time Michael came up with the script?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Michael wrote it, I think 3 years ago. He came to us with the story, and we were nervous because it really hits hard. I mean, and I was worried about how we were going to film this, so you understand there's a victim and doesn't cross the line, being that it's on sexual abuse. And Kevin was all for it right from the very beginning. He was like, "We have to do this. This is one of those stories that needs to be told." But it took like a year, mostly for me to kind of wrap my head around this one. Then he put it into the Snake Alley Film Festival, and we did the table read. And so that's where we got to see Dylan playing the star role, Morris. And once that happened, we knew, it just had to be done. But it took another year to kind of get everything into place. But I think that film is that was the turning point, I think, as far as films that we made, because we've done a lot of 72-hour and 24-hour film festivals, but that film, Morris,
Felt
I
real.
think, yes, it was drama, it was serious, it really tells a story that people need to hear and see. So that's when things, I feel, really changed. And it kind of put us on a different level.
Filmmaking felt more like it was having a message, right?
Yes.
And so what kind of positive feedback did you guys get from that? Because I know it does touch on such a heavy subject. during the festivals and stuff, like what kind of feedback did you guys get from that film? Was it hard to take, or was anybody negative, or?
No. One thing they did mention is that you're going to get positive reactions from the film community because it's such a powerful things and powerful message, and people can accept it. But they said you're going to probably get a lot of backlash from just
the random people that are there.
Yes. And we've never heard anything yet. We have not gotten any negative feedback yet.
I think the biggest, and it's not really negative, but Michael and I were talking about this on when he was here for his interview. The movie is definitely made, for the victims. And for me, I, told, like, people came up to me and they're like, congrats on Morris, but I can't or I won't watch it. And I told them that's okay because it wasn't made for you. It's made for a very specific, audience. Morris won Best Iowa Made Film at the Muscatine Independent Film Festival. And I really wish you guys were there, but you three were working on another project. But, that was a very emotional moment for me. And I was so happy for you guys, and especially Michael, because, he very well deserved that award.
Yes. I think it was the hardest on Michael Helgens just because that was his story and it was on display for everybody. And I think he had a lot of healing from it, but that took a lot of courage.
How did you both personally feel, the actors acting out the scenes and watching Michael's life unfold in front of your eyes?
There was one part, the hardest part was when we did Young Morris. That day we had to keep taking breaks, and there was one part where he said, "This happens every day, just take it." And that was the hardest. We took a break right after that. I just said, "No, we took a long break, but that was the hardest time. I mean, the other scenes were not as difficult as just seeing what he did to Young Morris.
Well, and I think too, we really worked hard planning those shots. First of all, the greatest thing that we got blessed with in doing such a difficult film was incredible actors.
Yeah, definitely. Especially just all the scenes that they had to go through. It'd be hard to do. And Dylan being a first-time actor, kind of jumping into a role like that, you definitely have to have some strength and to pull off that.
It was a lot of pressure. It was not my first time
not acting.
Acting, but acting for film. It was I was working on Morris and the Z Triangle, which were both my first time on camera. So there was a lot of pressure going in. And acting is fun. It's always been fun for me, and I had fun acting in Morris, but there was a different mood, we shared a lot of tears together. And it felt like something, it felt like something we had to do. A lot of us were quiet. There wasn't usually people are laughing on set. There was no laughing. There was a lot of silence. It was a weird energy in the room. But it wasn't it wasn't a negative one, but it felt so personal. And just going back thinking about it now, it was crazy.
Mm-hmm. It was
filming this.
It was everybody knew their role. Everybody knew what was expected of them, and they did it. It was not easy. The scenes were not something that you could not really give 150% to. When some of the guys had to kiss, it might have been the first time they've ever kissed a guy. But when they did that role, you knew they weren't there. It was that character. When Dylan played Morris, I didn't see Dylan. I saw Morris. He embodied Morris. Brad embodied your friend. Even Wes Worthing, when he had to do the hospital scene with you, he was doctor. He was also the person that was going to have a relationship with you at that moment in your mind. And so I never doubted. they say it all the time, you know, if you want to have a great film, have great actors. And we got blessed. I mean, Scott Blow played a bad guy, and I hate to say it this way, but he played it beautifully.
He really did.
He did. He played the bad guy in Morris to the point to where everybody watches that say, my God, he is so creepy.
Yeah.
But he is like one of the nicest guys you'll ever get a chance to
Yeah.
talk
So we
to.
literally just had him here. So just meeting or seeing Scott, like he's definitely such a different person when he plays those roles. Like in A Talk with the Devil, definitely isn't the Scott Blow we know, or when he was in Morris, definitely not the Scott Blow we know. Scott's an incredible actor, and
And I don't want to like put him on blast or anything right now, because we didn't talk. We ran out of time, but I wanted to bring up a specific moment that happened when at our premiere for Morris, when people were doing like a Q&A and stuff, and Scott, had he got really emotional during the Q&A, and I'm getting a little emotional just thinking about it, because I'm kind of like reliving that whole entire all the days we were filming.
Yeah.
We had to escape, because I think we all, professionally knew we had to do this. We had to do it right. We had to do it. So we had to let go of ourselves. We had to let go of any feelings we had about any like uncomfortable situations we had to do as an actor. And I'm just really excited to see more of Morris. It's out there for people to rent. It's out there for people to buy on Vimeo. You can also find it on morrisspeaks.com. But I think Morris is going to continue to help people in the future. Michael's working on a book. He wants to turn it into a feature film, and I'd be more than happy to, continue to help you guys with this journey, because it's so important. And it came out around the whole Me Too moment. It was that wasn't intentional. So it was like perfect timing for everything. Like people are now like speaking out about sexual abuse, sexual assault. And if anybody listening right now, ever had a similar situation, if you were ever abused, go to morrisspeaks.com, reach out to Michael Helgens, watch the movie, share it with your friends, and talk about it, because you can be the hero of your story.
Yeah, and I know he would love to be invited to go and speak about his experiences and the film, and share the film with people who'd want to.
And the thing that I feel like people are having trouble with is I think a lot of people are for it, but the movie is very in your face. It's very intense. It's very graphic. I can see why people would be uncomfortable sharing the film itself for people. But like Michael explained beautifully, it's like, that was all on purpose, because we needed to show the harsh reality of what's happening. But yeah, for you, Debbie, just working on, being the cinematographer for it, is there any specific scene? I guess you said with Scott Blow with young Morris.
Yes.
Shortly after the IMPA, though, you were in a magazine article, weren't you? Or was it a computer or a website article?
A European. I was in a 4-page spread on a European magazine.
That was really cool. How'd you get involved with that?
It was women in cinema, and they were highlighting
Women filmmakers, or
they were highlighting Fortunate Misfortune.
okay.
Yeah, and then they had like 4 pages of me and the film, but the whole thing was on women in cinematography and in the cinema.
In fact, the person that wrote the article, the very first sentence said that this film was psychologically penetrating.
That's
it was
definitely a
Fortunate
quote.
Misfortune.
Fortunate Misfortune was psychologically penetrating, and they said that it reminded them of the early works of a very famous Hungarian director. I don't know which one. I can't remember. I don't have the article in front of me. But this was a whole Italian, I think it was Italian or Polish, something like that.
With Fortune and Misfortune. Am I saying that right?
Fortune and Misfortune, yeah.
That's black and white, right?
Yes.
Yes, we did it in black and white.
Except for the very end, we put it in color at the very end.
Right. What made you guys want to do black and white? Just to fit that film noir type of vibe, or was there any specific reason?
It kind of seemed to fit the concept, because he was a military guy, going to be, and he has this happenstance chance to meet this beautiful woman, and they play this cat and mouse game in their relationship. So it seemed to fit to go black and white with it because it kind of had a throwback to old Hollywood. It was some of the old, like Gary Cooper or Cary Grant kind of meeting the lady at the shop or the store and kind of having that old-fashioned Hollywood feel to it. So it just seemed right to do it in black and white. But definitely wanted to do the color at the end because we wanted to really emphasize a change or a transition from what they were to what they are now. So
when you guys were writing it, were you originally making to turn it black and white, or was it sort of like something in the editing process that you came up with?
I think it was...
I think Michael did it in the editing process.
Yeah, it was in the editing process, but I think in pre-production, before we started filming, we had talked about doing that.
Well,
I think it was in editing, and we finally decided it.
We had done a lot of 48-hour film festivals and 72-hour film festivals, and I told him I wanted to do a romance. I wanted a romance. So Michael Helgens wrote that story, and then it kind of turned out that he was leaving for the war, and then that's when they decided to go black and white with the film. Yeah. And then
so I know you guys actually have participated in a lot of the 48-hour, 72-hour type of challenges. Talk a little bit about that. Like, talk about the rush or the production that goes into that. How do you get ready for such a crazy challenge like that?
We don't get ready at all.
You don't get ready?
The night that when we were doing the 72-hour film festivals, which those come to you by email. Mm-hmm. We just sit around the table at supper and just kind of have supper, and then in comes
email, and it's like,
yeah,
let's get
in
to
comes
work.
the email. Here's what you're.
So what would be your advice for a successful run in doing that? Like, would you recommend to have like a person just be a writer that can correct the writing while everyone else is getting ready to film, or like what would be a successful like run? Like, how would you do that, you think?
What works for us, and I think it almost works for, you'd almost have to know your people really well, but what works for us, we found out at the end, is we all brainstorm, but then we let Michael Helgens write it.
Okay.
Because in the early days, we would all try to change it, and it would take longer, and it was more difficult.
Well, because everyone has so many different ideas, and like I've done a lot of the 48-hour film festivals, and it's really hard for us at least is to all be in a room and like start like throwing out ideas to the writer. They just get so confused. So yeah, I think for our strategy, it's always like for this writer, like we'll come up with one solid idea and like then we'll just leave them with that, and then they're up to kind of like finish the ending and the beginning and stuff like that.
Yes.
Yeah, that was kind of similar to what we do. We would actually then, as people would give the ideas, we'd write them down, and then we'd review those ideas, and the ones that we all kind of as a group decided had the most merit, that's what we would take for the genre we knew, and then we knew the characters and the line they had to use. So we took all of that, and then we just took those ideas, and then we just, okay, those are the ones we saw, and then Michael would write the script off that.
And then like the one thing that we did our first year was to have like an in-house editor. So every scene we would finish, we'd run down SD cards to him, and he'd start editing the film. That way we wouldn't be up like until 5 a.m. and have to leave for Des Moines to turn it in time. So that's another really good tip. For sure.
Very good tip. Yes.
Yeah. So if you can have an in-house editor, do it.
Yeah, that's one reason why we went to 72-hour though, because since it was emailed.
I haven't got to do that yet.
Yeah, you get this. You get the email in, and you
Is it?
just get to work in your own environment. The nice thing about that is you kind of already know your crew. You already know your locations. Pre-production is much easier because you're not dealing with like, well, where's the local coffee shop? Where's the whatever?
Yeah.
Because you're in Des Moines, and if you don't go there all the time.
Are you guys going to be participating in this year at all, you think?
We
I don't believe
haven't
we are.
really. We just never really felt that it was our best work.
Mm-hmm.
One reason is because it takes us sometimes 72 hours to pre-production stuff, you know.
And then by the time you have like no time to film,
Right.
And then everything
right.
feels a
And
little
we
rushed.
like to set up our shots. We like to know what our angles are going to be. We want to make sure we know how to light it.
Mm-hmm.
Like in Morris, and then when we did that bedroom scene, we had to have the shadow on the wall, so
Cast
that way it was in your face, but not as in your face, and that way too it wasn't looking totally fake because you couldn't really see. It was on
We
the wall.
really worked well as a team to get that shadow down.
Yeah, it was a little
It was
tricky
a
to
group
get.
effort.
It was a total group effort to get that, but it turned out great. I think you really know what's going on there, and
You definitely do.
yeah,
You definitely do.
you know, but in the same way, it's tastefully done because it's all by casted shadow. It took us a while to get that lighting right, but when we got it, it looked great. So we like we like the 72-hour and stuff because it challenges you. It makes you kind of think in terms of, okay, what we should have done last time, what we should have done this time, what we need to do, with the lighting or the angles, and we learn a little bit, and it helped us kind of keep taking those evolutionary steps to be better filmmakers. But another reason why we're then kind of leaning away from them is because we feel we have kind of learned what we needed to, and these are the things we needed to learn: is set up our shots, know our angles, get our lighting down, are we getting the shadows in the right spot. So we take our time now because of the things that we did learn from that, but we don't like them as much because we don't feel it comes out with a piece of work that people can go, wow, this was great.
Right.
Well, and this year we're going to pass just because we want to film Raven.
Oh,
and
yes.
we're hoping to film Raven,
And
hopefully October and November.
Is Raven, are you guys still doing crowdfunding for that currently right now? Or
Yes,
have you
it
guys,
is going on
we
right
are
now.
trying to get, we're trying to think we can get it done with $3,000. So we got
Is that a
going.
feature or short?
It's a short.
Short,
about
okay.
a 15-minute, roughly 15
Gotcha.
to 20, depending on B-roll.
It's kind of
So-
a spy film.
Okay, yeah, we'll definitely make sure to link down. So if anyone wants to support you guys, for sure. If you guys want to go ahead and give a brief summary about it, that way people kind of know.
Yeah, it's basically an espionage piece where you have a guy and a girl spy that have to infiltrate a
Wealthy
person's organization that kind of steals information and sells it to the highest bidder kind of thing. And they have to go in and they have to find it, get it, send it back to the people that it belongs to, and destroy it, and get out without getting caught kind of thing. And so there's a really neat scenes. There's one where they're going to be doing a dance scene with each other so they can exchange.
Like some slow dance stuff? Or,
Yeah, well, we're going to start out with a waltz and maybe end up with a tango kind of thing or some kind of salsa stuff because we need to kind of change the pacing up as it goes. There's going to be a little small fight scene in it. So we're going to do little fun shots. I want to do this one where he's in the room. He's sipping on the champagne, and as he goes to put it down on the counter, we see him dropping on a tray. In the ballroom.
Nice.
So I want to see if I can pull that off.
Wow.
Another one when they're dancing, we want to do it so while they're together dancing, going one way, we're going to be making the camera go the opposite way and kind of create, while everybody else will kind of go depth of field, everyone's kind of frozen in time. And
Definitely.
This kind of thing.
And that'd be up to you to kind of do since you're the cinematographer, right?
We might bring someone else in on it. We're
talking about possibly doing that for the purpose of learning a little bit more, bring in somebody that has had a little bit higher skill level and then try to learn some of these techniques off of them. Another way you can learn, not only go by YouTube and stuff, but if you bring people in that have accomplished more or have maybe educated people in the field to do the work, then it's kind of an inexpensive way of learning
true.
that education from them.
and I would
help
be
improve.
first AC, so I could make sure
That everything looks the way
Yes.
you want it.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
The
sure.
hardest problem we're having right now is location. That's what
That's
that's the only
always
thing
the
that
problem.
is holding us up because it's a very wealthy man's home. And we've been searching
And it has
we
to
haven't
also
found
have a
anything
big
yet.
room in it. So, I mean, it can't just be a wealthy man's home. It also has to have a room that you could put 25 people in, a banquet table, a band, and a room for dancing.
Some sort of event center probably would
The Epic Event Center, it's not too far from here. Sammy and I just went to adult prom there, and it's
yes.
beautiful. They have weddings there. That could be, an extension to the house.
Yeah, we could
Yes.
definitely look into it. Yeah, definitely. The reason we're going to go with a wealthy home, too, is not only for the beautiful outside, but also that we'd have decorations inside that would look like a wealthy home.
Right.
And the thing is that we're a little concerned about going into, we were going to think about going into the Czech Museum, but the problem is that cost our budget to go up because we got to decorate it. I mean, you got to bring in a lot of linens and a lot of stuff on the walls, and so it's got to look wealthy. And so if we can get into someplace already that way, we cut our costs down because
Definitely.
it's already decorated. So,
For sure.
we're flexible. We'll have to do what we got to do, but and that's what you do in filmmaking. You got to do what you got to do.
Definitely.
But we'd like to get in someplace that's at least decorated to look like.
So you don't have to don't go over budget for sure.
Right. Got to watch the dollars.
Well, Kevin, Debbie, I could speak with you guys for hours, but unfortunately we are out of time, and it breaks my heart. So we might have to do a part 2 one of these days because, like I said, I could talk to you guys for hours.
Yeah, real quick. So at the end of every episode, we've been kind of asking our guests, some inspiration to a new filmmaker or someone that's just starting out, what would you tell little Kev or little Debbie trying to get into filmmaking? What would be your words of wisdom?
Build a good team, get some cameras and some equipment, and just make a movie and learn some more.
Yes, I would definitely try to connect with someone that also has a film going. You can learn a lot from that, even if all you're doing is getting coffee and stuff for people. But get involved with, some of the other filmmakers that are in town. But take the risk, go for it. Don't hold back.
And look for organizations like the Iowa Motion Picture Association that can educate you and give you insight and network with people, because finding other actors and other people behind the scenes, those people are invaluable.
Definitely.
Kevin, Debbie, thank you so much. I love you guys so much. It's so good to see you again. Yeah. And everybody listening right now, thank you for tuning in to this episode of Indie Social. Have a good night.